Alex jerked awake as the starship shuddered violently, alarms blaring from every direction. The faint hum of the engine was now a roaring thunder, and the bridge was cast in a red glow from emergency lights. As an engineer, Alex had seen plenty of rough missions, but this one felt different, urgent, life-threatening. Their gut instinct said one thing: they were under attack. Shaking off the remnants of sleep, Alex quickly took stock of the situation. The Starship, the Venture, was an older vessel, held together by layers of patchwork repairs and outdated technology. It had been commissioned for a supply run through the outskirts of a contested star system. There'd been whispers about rising tensions in the area, but no one had anticipated a full-scale battle. Alex braced against a nearby console as another explosion rocked the ship. Focus, they told themselves. Years of experience had trained them to stay calm under pressure. Assess the damage. Prioritize repairs. Survive. The starboard side of the ship had sustained heavy damage, and the primary engines were barely operational. Alex cursed under their breath as they noticed the blinking red indicators on the main console. Life support was fluctuating, navigation was offline, and communications were entirely down. There would be no calling for help this time. I'm alone here. Pushing aside the rising tide of panic, Alex steeled their nerves and grabbed a toolkit from the compartment under the console. They couldn't afford to dwell on the situation. Time was slipping away, and if they didn't act fast, the starship would soon become a floating metal tomb. The immediate task was to stabilize life support. The air was already tinged with the scent of burnt circuitry and something else, maybe coolant leaking from a ruptured pipe. Alex moved with precision, reaching for the emergency panel near the main power relay. They pried it open, exposing a tangled mess of wires and circuits. With a deep breath, they set to work, rerouting power and resecuring loose connections. The ship groaned as it took another hit, and Alex felt the floor lurch beneath them. They tightened their grip on the panel, fighting to stay upright. Another volley of explosions echoed through the hull, and Alex's heart raced. Whatever enemy had attacked them was relentless. It was no use trying to make sense of who was on the other side of those blasts. Alex knew they had to focus on what was in front of them. They tugged a few wires, splicing connections together and patching up what they could with the limited resources on hand. The lights flickered for a moment, and Alex could feel the faint hum of the oxygen recyclers as they sputtered back to life. Come on, Alex muttered, coaxing the machinery as if it could hear them. They bypassed a blown circuit, diverting power to essential systems. The ship wasn't in great shape, but at least it would keep them breathing for a while longer. Alex glanced at the navigation console. The entire system was offline, and without it, there was no way to control the ship's trajectory. They couldn't even see where they were going. The idea of drifting aimlessly through space was terrifying, but there was no point in thinking about it now. They had to keep moving, keep repairing, keep surviving. Alex wiped a streak of grime from their cheek as they moved on to the next critical repair. Navigation was offline, which meant they were effectively flying blind. Without the ability to steer the ship or plot a course, they'd be a sitting duck for any nearby enemies. Alex's hands worked quickly, searching for the right tools in their well-worn kit. They didn't have much time, and every second counted. They reached the navigation panel and removed a charred cover plate, revealing a mass of fried circuitry underneath. Alex's face fell. The damage was worse than they'd feared. But giving up wasn't an option. Drawing on their training and instincts, they began stripping away ruined wires and reconfiguring what they could with the materials at hand. The ship lurched again, jolting Alex forward. They gripped the console to steady themselves, cursing under their breath. Another hit. The enemy wasn't letting up. If they couldn't restore basic navigation soon, they'd be entirely at the mercy of the hostile vessel. Alex took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. This was more than just a job. It was a battle for survival. The navigation system's core was severely damaged, but there was a chance they could bypass the main system and create a manual override. They began rerouting power from non-essential systems, siphoning whatever juice they could find to bring the navigational aids back online. After what felt like an eternity, the console sparked to life, and a dim green light flickered on the panel. It was nowhere near full functionality, but it was something. Alex smiled grimly, pleased with their progress. Now, let's see where we are. The screen displayed a rough approximation of their current position, a far-off corner of the system, isolated and vulnerable. But Alex spotted something promising, a nearby asteroid belt. If they could make it there, they might be able to use the dense field of rocks as cover, evading the enemy ship long enough to make further repairs. With the navigation back online, Alex managed to steer the Venture toward the asteroid belt. The ship groaned in protest, the engines sputtering and sparking, but it moved. Alex held their breath as they guided the ship through the narrow gaps between massive rocks, their hands steady on the controls. They were flying by instinct now, the navigation only giving them the barest outlines of the terrain. As they dodged another massive asteroid, the comms panel suddenly crackled to life. Alex's heart raced as they recognized the distinct sound of an encrypted message. Could it be a rescue attempt? Or perhaps a warning? They couldn't be sure. But it was a welcome break from the silence that had dominated the past few hours. Alex activated the comms, listening carefully. The message was scrambled and patchy, but they could make out a few words. Hold position. Back up. Sector 7. It wasn't much, but it was enough to rekindle a spark of hope. Perhaps someone had noticed the Venture's distress signal, or maybe there were other survivors out there, struggling just as they were. Fueled by this glimmer of hope, Alex renewed their efforts. They navigated further into the asteroid field, using the massive rocks as cover from potential enemy fire. Each second spent among the asteroids bought them more time to repair the ship and prepare for the next phase of their escape. Despite the looming danger, Alex felt a newfound determination. They'd come this far on grit and ingenuity alone, and they weren't about to give up now. With every repair they made and every maneuver they executed, they were proving that humans weren't so easily defeated. The Venture may have been battered and bruised, but as long as Alex had breath in their lungs and a toolkit in their hands, they would keep fighting. The battle was far from over, but they knew that they had the skills and resolve to face whatever lay ahead. Part 3. Tactical Maneuvers to Evade the Enemy. As the Venture weaved through the asteroid field, Alex kept a close eye on the ship's sensors. The enemy vessel hadn't given up its pursuit, and even with the cover of the asteroids, Alex knew it was only a matter of time before they'd have to face them head-on. Alex gripped the controls tightly, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The tactical maneuvers they were using were risky. One wrong move could mean crashing into a massive asteroid or exposing themselves to a barrage of enemy fire. Yet, with each twist and turn, Alex was buying precious time to assess the damage and prepare for their next move. They made a mental note of all the critical areas that needed repair. The hull was barely holding. The life support system was running at reduced capacity, and the weapons array was non-functional. Despite these setbacks, Alex's mind raced with potential strategies, determined to make the most of what little they had. Suddenly, a warning flashed across the console, indicating a proximity alert. Alex's heart skipped a beat as they spotted the enemy ship appearing on the radar. They were moving fast and closing in. Alex's fingers flew over the controls, calculating the best route to avoid direct confrontation. Using the asteroid field to their advantage, Alex executed a series of sharp turns and quick dives, skimming dangerously close to the surface of the asteroids. Each maneuver seemed to throw the enemy off, forcing them to adjust their trajectory and lose precious seconds. But the enemy ship was relentless. Alex could feel their pursuer gaining ground, their ship's sensors picking up signs of an incoming weapons lock. They didn't have much time to make a move. Thinking quickly, Alex directed the Venture toward a particularly dense cluster of rocks, each asteroid spinning unpredictably. It was a risky maneuver, but they knew the enemy ship's larger size would make it difficult for them to follow. With the Venture positioned at the edge of the asteroid cluster, Alex released a decoy probe, a last-ditch effort to distract the enemy. The small, spherical device shot out of the ship and activated, sending out false signals that mimicked the Venture's signature. Alex watched as the enemy ship veered towards the decoy, giving them a few precious moments to break away. The decoy worked, but only for a moment. Alex knew they had to get the jump on the enemy before they realized the ruse. That's when the idea hit them, a tactic they'd seen used once in a simulator exercise. It was a high-risk maneuver that required perfect timing, but if it worked, it could potentially end the chase for good. Alex redirected all available power to the thrusters, propelling the Venture forward at full speed. They angled the ship towards a large asteroid, planning to use it as cover. Just before they reached the asteroid's shadow, Alex killed the engines, cutting all power to reduce their heat signature. The Venture drifted silently, hidden in the shadow of the asteroid, as the enemy ship raced past, oblivious to their prey hiding just a few meters below. As the enemy ship passed by, Alex held their breath, waiting for the right moment. They counted to 3, then reignited the engines, launching the Venture from the asteroid's cover and turning sharply to face the enemy's rear. With their opponent's blind spot now exposed, Alex took aim and fired. The Venture's lasers, limited though they were, struck the enemy's hull, hitting a vulnerable spot. Sparks and debris erupted from the enemy ship, which immediately began to list to one side. Alex seized the opportunity, maneuvering the Venture into an escape vector. The asteroid field was behind them now, and Alex pushed the engines to their limit, determined to put as much distance between themselves and the damaged enemy as possible. The Venture shot forward, the stars blurring into streaks as the ship reached its maximum speed. Alex exhaled a breath they hadn't realized they'd been holding. They had managed to outmaneuver the enemy, if only temporarily. It wasn't a total victory, but for now, they had bought themselves some much-needed time. With the enemy temporarily disabled, Alex turned their attention back to the ship's systems. The Venture was still in critical condition, and they weren't out of danger yet. The next step would be finding a safe place to hide and make more permanent repairs. Alex's mind raced with options, but they knew that each decision from here on out would be crucial. Despite the odds, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just surviving, they were fighting back, using every skill and trick they had learned over a lifetime. The enemy might be stronger, but Alex knew they had one advantage: sheer human ingenuity. And with that, they set their sights on the next phase of their escape. Part 4. A Battle of Wits in Deep Space. The Venture drifted in the quiet void of space, far enough from the enemy to escape immediate danger but still vulnerable and damaged. Alex took a moment to assess their surroundings, knowing they needed a safe haven to complete the repairs. Scanning the radar, they spotted a small, uncharted moon nearby. It was risky to land on an unknown celestial body, but the moon's rocky surface might offer the cover they needed to make the repairs without detection. With a deep breath, Alex set a course for the moon and powered down the engines, allowing the ship to drift in stealth mode. As they neared the surface, Alex carefully guided the Venture into a narrow canyon, which was barely wide enough to conceal the ship. The natural formations would provide cover from any enemy ships that might scan the area. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best option available. Once the Venture was nestled within the canyon, Alex began a full systems diagnostic. The damage was extensive. Hull breaches, weapon malfunctions, and power fluctuations filled the report. Alex set to work, knowing that time was of the essence. They grabbed a toolkit and descended into the maintenance bay, which was littered with tools, wires, and various equipment. A familiar chaos that felt like home. Alex methodically addressed each critical issue, starting with the most vital systems. They used the ship's limited resources with expert precision, patching up wiring and rerouting power to bypass damaged circuits. The hum of machinery and the occasional spark of welding filled the bay as Alex worked, their mind running through every trick and technique they knew. Despite the repairs, they were running low on supplies, particularly coolant for the engines and replacement parts for the weapons. Alex knew they would have to get creative to keep the ship running, but resourcefulness was a human specialty. With each repaired system, they felt a small surge of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could get the Venture back into fighting shape. After several hours of hard work, Alex finally reconnected the main power conduit. With a deep breath, they flicked the switch, and the ship's systems roared back to life. The lights flickered, then steadied, and the familiar hum of the engines returned. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to keep them going. Alex allowed themselves a brief moment of satisfaction. The Venture was a long way from being fully operational, but it was alive, and that was all that mattered for now. Just as they finished the last of the repairs, a warning alarm blared. Alex's heart pounded as they rushed to the cockpit and checked the radar. The enemy ship was back, and this time it was closer than ever, scanning the moon's surface. They must have tracked the Venture's energy signature, or maybe they were just following a hunch, but either way, they were closing in fast. Thinking quickly, Alex initiated a series of jamming signals to disrupt the enemy's sensors. The jammers bought them a few precious moments, enough to devise a plan. Alex knew they couldn't survive another direct confrontation. The Venture was too damaged, and their resources were depleted. They would have to outsmart the enemy. Drawing on their knowledge of the moon's geography, Alex planned a daring escape. They used the ship's thrusters to kick up a massive dust cloud, obscuring their position and making it harder for the enemy ship to get a weapons lock. Then, they powered down once more, lying in wait. The enemy ship hovered above the canyon, its powerful scanners sweeping over the landscape. Alex held their breath, hoping the dust cloud and jamming signals would be enough to keep them hidden. The seconds stretched on, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, the enemy ship began to move away, searching in a different direction. As the ship drifted further, Alex realized they had a narrow window to escape. They powered up the Venture's engines, keeping the thrust to a minimum to avoid detection. Alex guided the ship out of the canyon, hugging the moon's surface to stay beneath the enemy's sensors. Once they were clear of the moon's gravitational pull, Alex activated the hyperdrive, setting a course for a nearby nebula that would further conceal their escape. The stars blurred as the Venture jumped to light speed, the enemy ship disappearing behind them. Alex exhaled in relief, but the victory was short-lived. They knew that they were far from safe and that the enemy would keep searching for them. But for now, they had gained a crucial head start. With the immediate danger behind them, Alex returned to the cockpit, eyes scanning the vast expanse of space ahead. They were still on the run, but the repairs had held, and they had managed to outmaneuver the enemy once again. It wasn't a perfect escape, but it was enough to keep them alive and moving forward. Despite the close call, Alex felt a renewed sense of determination. They had faced the worst the enemy could throw at them, and they had survived. Now, it was a matter of finding a safe harbor, regrouping, and preparing for whatever came next. They might have been stranded on a damaged starship, but they had proven that human ingenuity and resilience could overcome any obstacle. Part 5. A Beacon of Hope. The Venture streaked through the cosmos, its patched-up systems holding steady, as Alex navigated towards the coordinates of a hidden sector of space. They were headed for a place they'd heard about only in whispers. The Nebula Haven, a sanctuary for those seeking refuge from the chaos of the galaxy. If they could make it there, they might find the resources and allies they needed to repair the Venture fully, and perhaps find a way home. The coordinates brought them to the edge of a dense nebula, a swirling mass of colorful gases and charged particles that seemed to stretch on forever. Alex adjusted the ship's sensors to account for the nebula's interference, and they carefully maneuvered into the heart of the swirling clouds. The ship's hull crackled with energy as they passed through waves of radiation, the nebula's colors casting an ethereal glow over the cockpit. As they ventured deeper, the ship's radar picked up several faint signals. Alex's heart raced with both hope and apprehension. They followed the signals, navigating through a maze of asteroids and hidden pockets of energy, until a cluster of small ships appeared on the radar. They had reached Nebula Haven. Emerging from the thick gas clouds, the Venture entered a hidden expanse of open space surrounded by asteroid fields. Dozens of ships of various designs and sizes floated nearby, and a massive space station loomed in the distance, its metallic structure gleaming under the strange light of the nebula. As Alex approached the station, a voice crackled over the comms. "Unidentified vessel, state your intentions." The voice was gruff but not hostile. "This is the Venture," Alex replied, keeping their tone calm and controlled. "I'm a stranded engineer in need of repairs and safe harbor. I mean, no harm." There was a pause, then the voice responded. "Proceed to docking bay 6. We'll be watching you." Relieved, Alex guided the Venture towards the designated docking bay. As the ship settled into place, a crew of station workers approached, inspecting the damage. One of them, a middle-aged human with a weathered face and a tool belt slung over his shoulder, stepped forward and nodded in greeting. Looks like you've been through hell, the man said, extending a hand. Name's Merrick. I'm the chief mechanic here. We'll get you patched up, but it won't be free. Alex shook Merrick's hand, grateful for the help. Thank you, Merrick. I'll do whatever it takes to repay you. I'm a mechanic myself, so I'm more than willing to lend a hand with repairs. Merrick raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. We can always use more hands around here. Let's get started. Over the next few days, Alex worked tirelessly alongside Merrick and his crew, pouring every bit of their expertise into restoring the venture. The station's resources allowed them to replace damaged parts, reinforce the hull, and install new weapons. As they worked, Alex bonded with Merrick and the other station dwellers, hearing their stories of escape and survival. Nebula Haven was a sanctuary for many, fugitives, rebels, and travelers from all walks of life, bound together by a common desire for freedom. One evening, as they worked late into the night, Merrick pulled up a chair and sat next to Alex, wiping grease from his hands. You know, not everyone here has a home to go back to, he said, his tone thoughtful. But you're different. You've got the look of someone who's still got a fight left in them. Alex glanced up, surprised by the comment. I guess I just can't give up. Not when there's still a chance. Merrick nodded, a knowing smile on his face. That's the spirit. Stick around long enough, and you'll find a few others here who feel the same way. We don't take kindly to those alien bastards out there who think they can push us around. The next day, the venture was finally ready. Alex had made new friends and allies, and Merrick had offered them a place at Nebula Haven if they ever needed it. But Alex knew their journey wasn't over. The alien threat was still out there, and countless other ships and people were still at risk. Before leaving, Merrick handed Alex a small device, a beacon that would lead them back to Nebula Haven should they ever need it again. Consider this a lifeline, he said, clapping Alex on the back. You're one of us now. As the venture launched from the docking bay, Alex looked back at the station, filled with a sense of hope and purpose. They had survived against impossible odds, repaired their ship, and forged new alliances. They weren't just a stranded engineer anymore. They were a survivor, a fighter, and a beacon of human resilience. The ship accelerated, leaving the nebula behind and heading back into the vastness of space. Alex was ready for whatever came next. They had overcome every obstacle thrown their way and proved that no matter how far from home, humanity could always find a way. And so, with a repaired ship, new allies, and a burning determination, Alex set a course for the next chapter of their journey, wherever it might lead.